Welcome to a spark of awareness. We live in a time where we are constantly being stimulated, prompted by systems, by algorithms, by AI. But when we outsource our answers, we slowly give away our authority, our inner voice, our self-mastery. Conscious leadership has no shortcut, no hack, and it can only begin from within. It is the courage to stop escaping and to sit with what's alive and present inside, even when it's very uncomfortable. But that's where growth is. And this podcast is a space for that. This podcast is an evolution. And every week, I will share a 15-minute human prompt, live, non-performative. It is a moment of reflection drawn from my work in conscious leadership, from the journeys of the leaders I coach and accompany, and from what is moving in a collective film of what is humanity and leadership. I am Sophie Vaux, a conscious leadership coach and guide of transformation. I support leaders who are crossing the threshold right now from the old system of leadership, a legacy, into a deeper, more conscious way of being. If the traditional model no longer resonates, know that you are not alone, and that is your weekly practice. This is your time with your inner world. This is your weekly spark of awareness. Welcome. Welcome to a new episode of A Spark of Awareness. So, in this upcoming series, the management of emotions, I want to touch on all the topics related to the mastery of the self. Why? Because what I found out through my coaching, through thousands of hours of conversation, that it comes down to the same root. When there's something not going right in the leadership, with the team, with the business, it's the leader, it's ourselves. So the focus of my work is really how do we master ourselves so we master the life outside of us, the business and everything that happens around us. And before I start this new series on the 6 human needs, I'll come back to that in the next episode. I want to really introduce why it's so important to do this inner work. And I'm not doing this because it's trendy, because that's what somebody told me to do. It's the conclusion I came to by going deeper and deeper into the work of how do we lead better. So I share in this episode, really in this short episode today, a short transmission about the keys of all you need to know to master your life, to master your business, your leadership. I'm going to share a few keys here of what it means to really master yourself. And it's a journey of really knowing oneself and know how to manage your emotions, your energy. Listen carefully, and if you practice, this is all you need to really break through. But of course, knowing mentally what to do, it's a very different story from actually doing it. So the first thing I wanted to share is when you're looking where you're going, what you want to do, what's your dream business, what's your purpose. Many people are looking for it for a lifetime by looking outside. You can't know where you are going when you don't know who you are. So the invitation of the first part of the work is not to try to figure out what to do. Do you know who you are? Do the work inside. Who are you? Who are you without the script? Who are you without your upbringing? Who are you without culture? What's your voice? What do you care about? What is really you? And it's such a difficult question in a world where we are constantly distracted. We receive a lot of input to have an opinion about something that most of the time is not even ours. And to know who we are, to know who you are, you need to understand where you come from. And that's where I spend a lot of time personally in my inner work and development to trace back my origins, my roots, Vietnamese roots, ancestral roots, what has been added to my cup, part of culture, education, some layers of religion even. I would say even business is a religion. All the things that I believed, a certain way of seeing the world and seeing money, very capitalistic, is something I inherited from systems. A deep inquiry to figure out for yourself what is yours and what is not yours. And if you are on a path of entrepreneurship, being a founder, this is the most direct path to growing, to figuring out who you are and becoming you. And when I say becoming you, sometimes people think we're becoming someone else, but actually becoming you, it's removing all the layers that are not you to give yourself permission to be really you. And it may not be the person you think or your ego thinks you should be, because somewhere deep down, part of you wants to be recognized, wants to be loved, wants to belong, wants something, make an impact. And yeah, that's a drive, but that's not necessarily you when you let go of that story. So as you're going into that journey of entrepreneurship, leadership, building your business, as I know is the case for many people these days who are transitioning. It's very shaky in games right now, and many people are asking themselves, can I build my own business? Can I build my own studio? And in a context where it's very difficult to raise, or it's very competitive, you have many other people having the same idea right now because it's pressing people to find their path. It's requiring even more you to know you and what you're building and why. But one thing I say, if you are feeling committed to this path, is with entrepreneurship, you have no escape from you. So when you're going to be behind your ideas, you are going to have to face rejection. And how much you identify yourself to the business. Is your emotional mood swinging based on how the business is doing? If so, you are your business. But who are you without the business? You're going to face also your own self-sabotage patterns. And I know them very well because I've seen them over and over again with founders, leaders, and they repeat until you bring them to life. You're going to face your own internal paradox. You're going to face the void when no one is here to clap you, to validate you, to like you, or to validate the name CEO, that big company, for your worth. You're going to have to find other places, sources that define your self-worth. So this is entrepreneurship, like it was for me, has been a deep journey of finding home, finding myself, finding my center. It's a bit like the hero journey. You go on an exploration, you try to build empires, conquer a new territory, win, to get all the lessons and realize, okay, I have my lessons now, I learned something very important, what's really important for me. And actually you realize you were in the right place where you started, at home, with maybe a much more simple life, simple setup, things that are just aligned. And yeah, you don't need anymore to go and chase everything for validation and whatever that your ego is driving. I'm not saying that's the journey for everyone, but that's the journey I've seen for many entrepreneurs when they have achieved the success, to realize that's not what really they was chasing, but that's a feeling about themselves that they were looking for, or a self-knowledge. So why not going there directly and do the work there directly? These days, for people who have followed my journey, I still run a very successful coaching business. I work still very much in the business world, but I have honored and owned completely my path, that is actually me, to live a life of alignment and integrity. And being true to myself, I do care about nature. I do care about living in harmony with nature as a whole, and ourselves as humans, we are part of nature. And I reflected in my choice, where I started to expand my coaching to wellness. Also, I'm looking into living in a place and building a place in nature. To me, a simpler life where I don't need that much. And now the revenue I generate is not for me to feed me or to fill the hole of unhappiness, of that pursuit of happiness, but more to create in the direction that is in harmony for myself and with nature. So I'm inviting you here to ask yourself, why do you care? Why are you going to go the extra length to build a business? What is the thing about you that you want to feel or fulfill? And do you have to go all that way, raise that million, billion, exit that company, 10 companies to really feel what you need to feel? And that's the work I'm doing in my coaching. So I'm going to do a fast forward here for you to know what are the levers, what are the topics, the themes that come up when we are doing this work of self-inquiry and being a better entrepreneur. Because you do want to invest all your time and energy in something that you care about and not the thing that will make you feel better, to do the thing that you actually care about. So the thing that you have to watch when you are building your path, and what is self-mastery about? First is boundaries mastery. What is yours? What is not yours? Do you have clarity what should be yours and what is not yours? Or are all your thoughts, feelings a product, a result of what you are consuming, what you are exposed to, even what you eat? I have experience for myself, stop drinking alcohol and caffeine, and it has altered quite a lot how I'm feeling about myself and how I see the world. And I feel much more peaceful and calmer than when I was really on dopamine and steroid and constant rush and easily irritated and agitated. But I'm not feeling this way anymore. So think about how you master the boundaries for yourself of what you eat, your space, what you consume, what comes to your world. The second mastery is energy mastery. How do you understand your energy? How do you master your energy? Do you understand what generates your energy? Because that's even more important than time. You can have the same hour for two people, and 1 hour that person will procrastinate, not do anything, be stuck, and the other, that person will create a new masterclass, which I just did, publish it, and boom, done. So that is energy. And when you understand how energy works, you protect it, you preserve it, and you know how to generate it. The third mastery is emotional mastery. Do you understand how the emotions work in you, how they work for you, or sometimes against you if you don't know how to work with it? And how do you manage and work with them and let them move through you? So that's also a big part of the work I do, to look into how emotions are there to tell you something about what's going on with you. Then the next thing to master for you is how you talk to yourself. What is the quality of your talks and your thoughts? Because the way you talk to yourself is the way you perceive the world and is the way you're going to act. So, for example, like I've heard quite often that self-talk, I'm not good at anything. I have stupid ideas. And it's crazy for me to hear sometimes some of the women I work with who are super competent, super smart, still deep down thinking that they don't want to look stupid, they don't want to feel stupid, because deep down they believe that they are not competent, although they are competent. And so the self-talk is I'm not competent, so everything I'm going to learn is going to compensate the fact that I'm not competent. And so when I'm going to show up out there, I'm going to act in a way overcompensating for the fact that I'm not competent. And then it signals lack of confidence, lack of competencies, and then it may signal some doubts on the other side. And then a client or partner will start to relate to that person in a way that is doubtful and is going to reinforce the belief that you're not competent because people are doubting you. So you see here the loop, the cycle. But when your self-talk is, I can make mistakes, but I I master learning. I can learn, I can be diligent in learning, and I will know, and I can master knowledge. Then you show up like this, and then you may make mistakes, and you share with others you make mistakes. So you show some vulnerability and authenticity, but also you master your knowledge because you've learned. You spend your time, your hours to learn and practice with discipline. So you did a different action that is practice to compensate the fact that you may have gaps of knowledge. And then you can show up with confidence because you know your topic. You master your topic. And then people start to feel your mastery when you show up in a place and then you know what you're talking about because you studied. And it's very unlikely that people will feel you're not competent or doubt your knowledge because you spend thousands of hours compared to them not knowing about this specific topic. So you see how it creates two different timelines and different outcomes just based on how you see yourself and how you talk to yourself. So work on your thoughts, work on your self-talk, and if there's something that is in you that believe that you're not competent. And the last part that you need to master is self-knowledge. If you don't know who you are, you can't actually work with yourself, and everyone is a bit different, has their own specificity. So do you know who you are without the script, without the label? Study your life. Be the historian of your own life. Do you understand where you come from? Do you understand your family origins? Do you understand your ancestral roots? Everything that has shaped you and your culture. Because if you're familiar with the topic of what is passed on through generation, your thoughts, the way you see the world is inherited. So if you don't know where you come from, what you've inherited, how can you know who you are? And how can you know what belongs to you and what does not belong to you that was passed on from your parents, your grandparents, and so on? So to summarize, for this episode today, I'm really passing the keys here of what you need to focus on. I'll repeat. Boundaries mastery, energy mastery, emotional mastery, self-talk, and self-knowledge. And how are you doing on those? You can scale and rate. And of course, it's not in a 15-20 minute episode that you're going to master all those, but it's good to be aware, bring to light those topics first. And I'm going to go deeper in the topic in the coming weeks through the podcast, but also a workshop that I'm running online. So this workshop is for women founders who are building a business with purpose. So I'm going to teach there what are the steps, because I know deep down for the women who I work with building their business, you want to build something with purpose. You don't want to put the time and energy for something to make more money. You've done it in a corporate. You want to build something that gives you energy and that matters for you, for all the effort. So I'm going to touch on that in the workshop, and I'm going to share it in the show notes. For the rest, I'll continue in the next series on going deeper into those patterns and blockers that may block you to master yourself. But I hope today you get the key message that mastering yourself is mastering your business. And we're going to do a very short meditation, because if you follow my past episode, then you know the drill. So I'm asking you now to close your eyes and to start to slow down your breathing and anchor the knowledge I have shared, the keys. You don't have to think about it. You don't need to be in the mind. You just need to be in your body. So come back always to your breathing and inhale through the nose and slow exhale through the mouth. And feel how your breath is traveling through your body, inside your body, from the top to the bottom. And let's do a few more breathing together, keeping your foot anchored in the ground, spine straight. Breathing in and breathing out. And one last time. Breathing in And breathing out. Thank you for tuning in, and have a good journaling and reflection on what I shared today, and I'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning in into this weekly reflection, a weekly spark of awareness. After this episode, I invite you to take a few moments with yourself, even just 15 minutes, to sit with what resonated, to breathe, and to notice what is shifting inside. This is a practice, a discipline of presence, truth, and self-connection. If this work speaks to you, I accompany leaders in one-on-one journeys and group experiences of transformation, supporting them as they cross the threshold into a truer and freer way of leading and living. If you feel called to explore this path, I would love to hear your story, and let's connect. Sending you love and courage, and have a great week ahead. This is my spark of awareness.